Hello, welcome to HCR Garage. I'm Henry. So, in the last, few episodes, we've been getting this engine fitted into this car, making gearbox mounts, engine mounts, etc. But before that, we completely restored this MGB, as well as improving it with suspension upgrades and everything. So, there's a lot of work gone into this car. And today might just be the most frustrating job of that whole time, because I've got to get these exhaust manifolds to fit in an engine bay with a Jaguar V6 engine that's not meant to fit in it. So it's extremely tight. There's lots of things in the way. I'm going to have to cut things, bend things, weld things, and hopefully we can get some exhausts on this engine. So yeah, sit back, relax, and watch me struggle do this. So let's look at the task ahead. So you might be able to tell there's one exhaust manifold on this side already. Now this fits. Obviously it's upside down and back to front. That's fine. I plan to go through the inner wing around here. It's going to be a bigger hole than that, but it's going to be around here. And that's because you can see that bolt there. That's that there. So I need to come down below that so that I clear that box edge in there, which obviously I've welded up in the past when I had to restore the whole car. So this side, great. It's going to go down there, run down the back of the inner wheel arch, and then down the chassis leg, down there all the way to the back of the car. Now it's this side that's the issue, because it's a right-hand drive car, because we are in England, and this steering knuckle is definitely in the way. In fact, I can't even get that other side of the manifold in place at all. So my plan, first of all, is to disconnect this here, which I've not yet undone on this restoration because I undid it last time here. Undo that there, undo the bolts that hold the steering rack on, definitely the tie rod ends as well. Get that steering rack out completely. Once I've done that, I can put this manifold in, and then I can leave that in place whilst I try and offer that up. It's not going to fit, so I'm going to have to, if you imagine, this is going to be like that. Those two pipes are going to be absolutely fine. It's this one. So I'm hoping to be able to knock it into shape. If not, we'll have to cut it there and there and get someone else, because that's beyond what technology I have in this garage to weld. Unfortunately, I don't have a TIG welder. So yeah, let's start off by taking that steering rack out and offering this manifold into place, and hopefully we can get away with just massaging that corner a little bit, which obviously will restrict flow, but it is what it is, isn't it? So those bolts there are off for the steering rack, and that pinch bolt there is out. So what I'm going to try and do is drive a wedge into that, spread it apart, and then I'm going to try and leave the track rod ends on and just move the rack out the way, and hopefully it gives me enough clearance to get it in. If not, I'll remove the track rod ends. But let's try that first. You can see that's loose and off. I've managed to get that up there, and I've lined it up to where it is currently. You can see the white marks I put on it. Now, the track rods won't let me go much further, so I am going to disconnect those inside the wheels. There and there. Hopefully I can get that off, and then I can just remove the whole steering rack. Right, that steering rack is well out the way. A little bit awkward doing it with the wheels still on and the car on the floor, but I think it saved me time by doing it that way. So now I need to try and get this in here. So I think the issue I'm going to have is I don't think there's enough room to get the bend on it because of this bit of the inner wing. So we can try and take the lambia sensor bolt out. Maybe that'll just give us enough room. If not, we're going to have to either lift that side of the engine up a little bit or something to try and get it down in there. What I was just looking at is there is going to be a starter motor down there. But this manifold, apart from getting caught on the brake lines, does want to fit that way as well. I just don't know how far or how close that is to the starter motor. To be honest, I think that's going to be a no-go, even though it does look like it fits that way. And to be honest, because that one has to be that way, I'd quite like them both to be pointing up just because that looks cool, doesn't it? I'm going to faff around with this for hours probably, and then I'll get back to you and we'll see what it looks like. Right, I told you this was going to be a pain, didn't I? So, I've got it kind of roughly fit in, but there's a few things stopping me that I can't solve with a hammer, which I know, strange, right? So let me show you. So I've profiled that in. I'll obviously clean it out up when the engine's off, but basically I've just enlarged that. That allows the manifold tube to slide in. What's stopping it now is the edge of this flange here and that lambia sensor kind of port there. Now, that's annoying because that's the one I could kind of do with. So what I'm thinking is, I was kind of toying with the idea of removing that. Now, I'm definitely going to cut this because I don't need this anyway because it's going to be a different place. So I'm going to cut that nice and level somewhere around here. It'll just be an open end and then someone can weld or whatever later once I take that to a proper shop. Now here though, I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't want to get rid of that, but I'm going to need a lambia center at some point, so it's going to need a space for it. So let's start off by cutting this, seeing how much clearance we do actually have there. Then I might have to actually, instead of doing that, cut an actual hole here, which I don't want to do, but I might have to, just to allow it to shape into place. Obviously, the other option is to get that all welded up and then put that somewhere else, but we will see. So that's the line I'm going to cut down there, leaving just enough to make a bend or weld or anything around that. The reason I use tape is to try and get a straight line. So yeah, let's cut this out. Right, let's try and fit this to the car now. So that's what I've come up with so far. You can see I've profiled it there. I'm going to clean all this up when I take the engine back out again. I've profiled it there. So it does slide in. Issue now is it's hitting, see that witness mark there? The top is hitting there. I don't think I'm going to achieve what I want by hitting it with a hammer anymore. I know. So I wanted the hole that the exhaust came out of the inner wheel arch to be further towards the bulkhead to make sure it had room for the steering to turn all the way. I don't think I'm going to be able to achieve that now. So what I'm going to do is make a cut in that inner wheel arch for the exhaust to go through further up. I'm going to have to hug the inner wheel arch when we do the exhaust to allow the wheel to turn to its full capability. And I'm going to have to wrap it really, really well in heat-proof tape and stuff. Probably put a shield in there of some sort. Yeah, I'll show you what I'm going to cut. So I'm going to draw this out better. That was just whilst the manifold was in the car, but I'm going to cut probably along this line here that's already profiled for where the coil used to fit, up here and around and down that line there to meet up with there, and then try and get in here. And I'll just have a nice hole here for the exhaust manifold to slot in. It'll get rid of all this hammering and bashing I've done. That was pointless. I was trying to make it so that my hole, I could relocate the brakes and some of the wiring and stuff and have my hole kind of here out the way, because you can see up there that's where I've been hitting. So I mean, the wheel, if I keep it high enough, it might be all right above the wheel, but we'll see. It's not ideal. So yeah, I'm going to try and get my grinder in here somehow, get all these wires out of the way, taped up so I can't cut them in half, because although I don't need most of them, you never know. I've not really looked into, I've done a bit of looking into the wiring, but not properly yet. So yeah, I'm going to come in and try and make a hole there. It's probably not going to be the neatest to start off with. I'm going to have to make it neater when the engine's out. Right, we have a big hole in our MGB, which is great. I mean, it is a hole. It's not the best cut hole in the world, but it is a hole. I'm definitely going to have to clean that up when I come to, sort everything else out. Let's try and put this into place and see if it now fits. And then that would be the first bit of our issues gone. Right, very close, very close. This here sensor bit is still stopping it. So what I'll do is I'll get the grinder back in and just cut another bit just here. Probably come all the way to here actually, because that's a bit close there, isn't it? Cut all the way down. Yeah. And I think my exhaust is probably going to go up, right up to near the top of this wheel arch and down, I think. Yeah, let's do that. If I can get this off. There we go. Right. One more cut up there. Right. Nearly. Add insult to injury, the hay fever gremlins are definitely back in full force at this time of year in the UK, which is excellent. It really helps me see. I love crying all over the engine. That's great. Anyway, the steering rack, or the steering column, is not far off. Really surprisingly, not far off. Let me show you. So what I've done is put some Allen keys through the holes to kind of roughly get it into the right place. Okay, that allows me to pivot it. Now, there is the steering column and the knuckle. Now you can see it is really, really close to fitting. Really close. It is just fouling. That's header there. So now we can think, well, let's make a mark on that. We've got to make sure don't impede that, because that's obviously the mounting point and it's already quite hard to get a nut on that. So we need to try and massage this kind of more here and bring it all up that way. But yeah, I mean, it's not too bad. Maybe even I can make it a little bit oval so that the flow itself, so because it's oval coming out the port, maybe I try and make it oval by squishing the pipe for a little bit further until it clears that steering column, potentially. Obviously, I've got to give it some room either side for the engine to rock when it revs and things. Otherwise, that will be annoying. The other option I can do is lower the point that this comes out. I can make a new mount for in here. If I can avoid doing that, because I've already set up all the angles and everything, I've got all the right spaces and things that I need to do that, because I worked that all out in a previous episode. So I'd rather not change that, but if I have to, I have to. I think for the first point, let's just see if we can just massage this a little bit and get it to fit in a little bit better. So let's take that manifold back off. I'll leave that in place there. And then we can, try and kind of fit it in properly. The first plan is to try and make that round tube oval. Try and make it match the port coming out and make it kind of go into its cylindrical shape later on. Hopefully that works. And it should give me more room for where the stud goes in as well. Then I can bend it a little bit, and it's going to be easier to watch than explain, but I'll show you the kind of the setup I've got and what I'm planning to do. So here's my setup. Now this vise, I mean, it's brilliant, it's old, it's made well, but it is worn out a little bit now. I'm hoping it doesn't slip a tooth when I'm trying to heat it up using this multi-gas propane butane mix. I'm going to heat all this kind of corner here in the vise and then slowly try and crank that closed and squeeze that together. Now I'm going to be able to look down the bore to make sure I'm not going too far. Wish me luck, this is going to be very much trial and error. Right, so you've seen me hammer it and try and use the vise and stuff, so this is where I'm up to now. Now that is red hot, and you can tell by the discoloration, but I've got it clamped in here so that it cools in that position. You can see I've got kind of a flat point there now. Now, it was better the last time I fitted it, but it's still not perfect. So we'll try this now, because that's a lot more. It's still got a good bore, because what I've hammered on one side has squished it, so it's still got a good flow into that bit there. You can see where it kind of goes from oval into a round up here now. Now I'm going to have to do that more extreme, and probably a little bit further up here as well to carry it on. But it's obviously, this is just part of the process, so it's lots of kind of doing this and then measuring it up to the car and seeing what it fit like and all that type of stuff. So yeah, let this cool off a bit and then we'll try it in the car. Right, it's definitely close, like really close, which is great. I'll show you what it looks like in the car at the moment. So there it is. Obviously the lines on it there. I'm annoyed that I've dented the top. I was trying not to do that, but it is what it is. So this here, you can see how close it is. Really close. So a little bit more, and we might just get it to fit. This is obviously fine because worst case scenario, I'm cutting that pipe off anyway. So if I can get it to fit, I can get it to fit. But yeah, it's so close. Obviously, the steering shaft is pushed in at the moment. It just needs to go probably. I mean, it's nearly there, to be fair. It just needs a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Right, here's what it looks like at the moment. So that's where I need to go to. So I just need to profile that a little bit more. So I'm going to get on with doing that now. We're getting there, you know. Slowly but surely, we are definitely getting there. And I've just thought something else, which is going to help. Because basically I was really worried about the knuckle, because there's no way, although I can get this steering column to fit, there's no way I can get the knuckle to go in. But I think I've come up with a solution for that, potentially. So that's what it looks like at the moment. I'm annoyed about that dent, because that didn't need to be there, actually. And it would have looked quite good from the top then. That fits in there. It needs a little bit more, because although there's a gap all the way, as soon as the engine rocks, it's going to hit the steering column, isn't it? So I need a little bit more room than that. It's not on all the way to the knuckle up there, but you can tell that that is further that way into the car. And I was thinking, why couldn't I just drill some new holes on this and mount the steering rack closer towards the engine? It would alleviate that issue there of the knuckle, because at the moment, if I reach into the car, that knuckle clears. Whereas, obviously, if I go any further down, it doesn't. And I was going to profile the corner of that pipe as well, but then you're really starting to kind of knock it into loads of different directions then, which isn't great. But I don't think it'll alter the steering geometry or anything. It'll definitely alter the tracking. I'd need to move the track rod ends further out because the distance is longer. Yeah, that's something to think about, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I'm going to have to do that, to be honest. Yeah, let's try and one more time just profile that out a little bit. I'm also going to use a file or something just to kind of clean it all up a little bit, or some emery cloth or something, because that'll give me a little bit more distance. But I need a good kind of 2 millimeters all the way around it to allow for that movement. The other idea is to move the whole steering column down a bit, which is a lot of work. I don't really want to have to do that. So let me try and figure this out, and I'll get back to you in a minute. There is a possibility that I might have just had a little bit of a eureka moment. Maybe. It's odd, isn't it? There might have been people who know MG screaming at me for a little while. I'll show you why. Those joints there that hold the steering column up into here have little slots on them so you can adjust them up and down. And that rubber there has movement in it, because obviously it's bigger than it needs to be. So I don't know how much movement I can get. But if I loosen all them off in here, drop that down as far as it'll go inside that hole, I might just get that little movement I need. And then I can set my seat up to match that then. So yeah, let's try that. Let's try undoing them. Which I'm not going to be able to get you into film, but I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. And dropping the whole column down. Right then, I have now moved that column down a bit, and it has given me more room, but not as eureka moment as I thought, unfortunately. Ever is the way, isn't it? But it's still looking good. Let me show you where we're up to. So I've now got them in the correct bolt holes with the bolts in and the original shims in, just so I can line it up as best I can. That is now where I'm up to. So that is as far down in the original hole as it can go. And although it does spin round, it catches on the exhaust manifold there. So not ideal. But underneath now is clear pretty nicely, actually. There's about a couple of mil gap all the way around. So I do want to make that a bit bigger, but I'm wondering now whether to make this hole lower and drop the whole steering column down. Because you can see where I've drawn in white there. I'd have to dent the header there as well to give clearance to the nut and bolt to clamp it together. Now I could buy a smaller U-joint, I suppose, or a different style one. That seems like a faff and spending more money. So I could just dent that. There was a report done by a show called Engine Masters in the US, and they had a engine dyno, and they tested an engine, and they slowly dented the header to see at which point it affected the power, and it had to be over halfway reduced in diameter to affect the power produced, which is a lot actually, and I'm nowhere near that on mine. So I have got more room to go. It's just feels wrong, doesn't it? And it goes against kind of what I learned as an engineer and how gases flow down pipes and how they can get turbulence and what have you. But I'm kind of not in a perfect scenario, am I? So you've got to do what you've got to do to get it to work, I suppose, without redesigning the whole steering system of the car, because you could go down the route of having two universal joints and routing it a different way and tilting the steering rack up and all sorts. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it as kind of close to how it was designed as possible for the steering, because all the geometry's right and stuff. So anyway, I'm going to take this header back off again, do a little bit more massaging, put it back in. If I can avoid moving that steering column down anymore, I will. It's actually past the hole where it would need to go. I'd need to make the slots longer now on the closest to the bulkhead kind of adjuster inside the car. So we'll see. Let's take it off and do some more hitting with a hammer. Right, it does fit. It doesn't foul anywhere. It does fit. It's just too close for my comfort. I just think, at the moment, the engine mounts are pretty solid. If you've watched one of the previous episodes, I'm probably going to modify them to make them a little bit softer so that the engine can rock, because at the moment it doesn't budge at all. So I think what I'm going to do is lower the steering rack by 5 mil, 10 mil down, just to give me the clearance to the manifold. I'll still need the bits that I've massaged and stuff, because that's where it'll fit into, but it'll just give it a little bit of clearance all the way around. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So I've removed the actual physical steering rack now. Let me get my torch on. There. So this hole here is where your steering column comes down through. If I just make that hole a little bit longer down, or a little bit wider, I should be able to mount the steering column just slightly lower down, literally until where it kind of make a mark so you can see where I've cleaned there, literally just down there. So I think I'm going to do that, and that'll allow me just to put the steering column a little bit further down, and then inside the car on that mount there, I'll just have to make some little, if you imagine it's going to be about there, I'll just have to make that mount there a little bit longer. Cut it, weld some tabs to the end of it, or something along those lines. It's going to be extremely awkward, but I can't really see another option now. I don't think it'll adjust my steering position too much, but I will have to adjust the rack at the front, which I'll show you. So you can see the rack here. This rack's got to be perfectly in line. So at the moment, it's tilted. You can imagine it going like rocking that way a little bit more. So I'm going to have to shim up the back of these so that it's in line. But yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. But I think the manifolds look really, really good. It only bloody fits. You'd have thought that from me, eh? Yeah. Manifold is kind of in. I need to fix the steering and stuff, but it fits and there's room the whole way around it, so happy days. That dent's going to really piss me off, isn't it? But never mind. See how there's a really nice gap the whole way around there? That has room to come up a few mil. And then if you can see in there, that's the little... You can't really see it, can you? That there, just there, is a little tab that I need to make longer so that it holds it in the right position. I'm going to need to buy some sort of rubber surround to go around that. I'm going to have to space that back out so it's all in line. But that fits, which is brilliant news. Absolutely brilliant news. So we're going to have one exhaust going out there like that, into the wheel arch down there, and we're going to have one exhaust. It's a shame that this is kind of pointed up a little bit more, isn't it? But it does mean that there was less fitting involved. So this is probably going to be cut off here and then a bend to down there. But yeah, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. This is what it looks like from inside the car. You can see that mount a little bit easier now. You can see the holes on the side there. So I'm going to have to cut that off, weld something else in. That one could stay the same there, that's holding it. And it does move nicely. No issues there. All free and nice. But I have altered the angle of the steering. So I am going to correct that, make sure it doesn't foul anything. So there's still plenty of thread underneath here for a bolt, which is nice. Not moved it that much. That's good. Those holes still line up. So I'm just going to have to shim the bottom bit a little bit, the bottom bolt, before I bolt it all back in. But I will bolt that back in. And then we'll put that knuckle back on. Well, first of all, we'll probably pull it back out again, realign everything, get the steering wheel back straight again and stuff. But yeah, I'll kind of fiddle around with doing some of those bits and then I'll let you know kind of the final-ish result. Well, hopefully that was a short but sweet episode. I've not got loads of time at the moment with work and stuff. Like today, I managed to get all that done in an afternoon. I was on a night shift last night. Woke up early, got in the garage and cracked on. But I'm really, really tired now. And the hay fever's not helping, definitely. But yeah, we're just slowly making progress towards getting this car going. The next steps now are probably maybe wiring and have a look at the ECU and things. Maybe we'll just take the engine out and start kind of fabricating everything up that we kind of cut out. Not 100% decided yet. That's a problem for another day. I'll have a mull over that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, please like the video, drop a comment on it, and subscribe to the channel, please. We're doing really, really well now. We're over 4,000 subscribers, which for me is unbelievable. I can't believe that really, because it's just me in the garage, which is Humbling, but over 50% of you aren't subscribed. So imagine what it could be. I will hopefully see you next week, but it might be the week after. I'm away next week. So whenever it is, I'll see you next time.